So when you are not inviting thousands of people into your community right away, but when you are inviting them step by step, and not like you as a community builder or as a company, as a marketing team or whatever, but mostly people love experience they have there, and they are inviting their friends. For me, it's the best case of the growth.
Welcome to the Community Unlocked podcast hosted by Helena and Olena, where we have in-depth conversations with top-tier community leaders and growth experts. Our goal is to provide you with concrete and actionable advice to help you learn about building, launching, and growing your community.
Hi everyone, welcome to our first ever episode of Community Unlocked with Helena and Olena. Very excited for you to be here, and I'm super excited to have our first guest ever, Yurii Lazaruk, who is, in my opinion, one of the most connected community people out there. Whichever community builder group I'm in, I always see Yuri's there. He's always there. It's phenomenal. I don't know how he does that, but he's very well connected and very impressive. So he believes, and he's actually 200% sure, that communities where people take other people's problems as their own. So he uses his knowledge by applying his expertise in real life and helping people foster their communities. Some fellow community builders call him a community psychologist, which I can agree with. And on top of that, he also has a podcast called Community Life, where he invites community builders talk about their life. And this way we learn more about each other as people, which is pretty phenomenal. Welcome, Yurii.
Welcome.
Oh, hello. Super happy to meet you.
To start us off, I actually want to ask you, what does a community psychologist actually mean?
The second guest for you to invite, it's Ilker Akancel. And that's exactly who told it first. And since you were the guest on the Community Life conversation, you know what it's all about. So it came after our Community Life conversation with Ilker, and he was like, oh my God, like, you're a community psychologist. Ilker calls me Dr. Yurii. And as he tells, like, well-known community psychologist. And that I was like, I will use it, let's have fun. And that's all because I always ask, so many questions about people and about their human side. And it's always like, tell me more, I never stop after the first answer. I'm always asking, I really want to dig to this deeper part of the personality, because for me personally, like, human connection is something that you build first, and then you can talk about business, then you can talk about work. And that's what I'm really trying to do during the Community Life conversations.
Nice, and I can totally say that is true. We dug deep during my conversation, so you definitely are doing a good job building those connections. And we talked about of course, connection building, and you're really good at that. But how did you actually end up in the world of community building?
Yeah, it's fun because I had my internet shop and I delegated some SEO stuff for some folks, but they just got my money and they did nothing. And I was like, oh, what's going on? Like, I'm paying monthly, I am receiving no results. I have to check it by myself. So I went to some kind of SEO forum, and then I understood that they are doing nothing. And then at some point I started learning SEO myself, doing it for my website. And then I was like, oh my God, there are so many amazing people on this forum. Why don't we meet in Kiev in person? Because there were meetings in other cities, and why don't we meet? And the funniest thing that on the first meeting it was like 17 people or something like that, and 2 of those people were living in the same district as I was, and we were living basically in the like nearby houses, and we didn't know about that. And after we met, we understood that. And then, long story short, there were a lot of meetings, a lot of conversations. That's how the SEO club appeared, then how the CPC Real Talk and a marketing club, and then it was Sales Hero. Those are for Ukrainian communities, for experts. And then when the war started, I started I started discovering international community work a little earlier, but I would say that my journey, my international community journey, started with the war in Ukraine, because basically I lost every source of income overnight, and nobody cares about communities when you have war in your country. And I reached out to David Spinks and asked him for help, and I clearly remember that the first message I sent to David was, "Hey David, please share this information with the world, what's going on." And the second message, like 4 days later, was, "Hey David, can you help me find a job?" And basically that's how it started. And yeah, it was a long way, but here we are.
Yeah, once again, this is, you see how clear this actually correlation between the relations you build and the power of your network to help you in the situation that you really need help. So this is the power of relations and connections.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and after that day, after the 25th of February of 2022, I have this notion in my mind that no matter how much stuff you have, it's all about people. So you can lose all your stuff overnight, but if you have people, you will thrive.
That is, I believe, a very correct statement, and also shows, how this field that you chose or kind of ended up in really is close to your heart. And it's great to see an example where the people who you knew, who you connected with, brought you further and showed you this kind of empathy and kindness and love in a way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Community builders, community people are the best people in the world.
Let's talk about planning and launching a community. What would you advise to someone who is thinking of launching a community or who discovered the power of it? What are the must-haves? Ethical questions, practical questions, all of it.
There are many questions, but I would say the first question to start with, and it's not the question, but it's more something to think about, that it's not an overnight success. So community building is a long journey, and it's the same. I'm always comparing it like to building relationships. You're not getting married the next day most of the times. So you have to, to meet person, get to know each other, and then you can talk further. And the second question, exactly the first question, is why do you need a community? Because if everyone building community, it doesn't mean that you have to have a community. So you have to make sure that you have resources and time to spend on the community, because you can't just hire somebody, like, do whatever you want, I don't care, and then in 2 months it's like, oh, so what is the ROI, like what are the metrics? It doesn't work that way. You have to find some there are a lot of examples of how communities help in businesses and companies and brands. So you have to do your research before starting. You have to understand exactly why do you need a community, how it will, if you are a CEO, yes, or if you are a founder, you have to understand what value community will bring to you. Otherwise, it makes no sense. It won't work that you will hire some consultant or community builder and they will do everything for you. And what I see a lot in the community world, community builders have a lot of fights with their managers trying to explain the value of community, and like hearing the answer, okay, so I get it, but what are the metrics? So it's, you have to think a lot about that. And also, I would say that you have to be an expert in something, in the field that you want to build community in. Because for me, I was building SEO communities, I was building paid advertising, marketing, sales. Currently I'm working with freelancers, and it close to my heart. I can tell I won't be building communities for doctors or for accountants, because I have no ideas, like, who are they, what kind of people are they. I know that they're amazing people, but once again, I do not understand it. And you have definitely be some, and at the beginning you definitely have to be a leader, or a person you hire have to be a leader, because people won't just join and connect on their own. You need to facilitate these connections. You have to make sure that you are connecting people, and then over a year or 2 years or decade, you can talk that, okay, people are really connecting here and they are bringing value. So yeah, I would say from the beginning, find some examples. Second, decide why do you need the community. And third, make sure that you will allocate time, or the person you will hire, you will have this conversation with this person to make sure that you are supporting them. And also that you are kind of being this thought leader at the beginning, or elevating some community members to be thought leaders. So people need somebody to follow at the beginning, and then you'll have these relationships.
Yeah, I have so many follow-up questions. So you revealed so many interesting insights right now. Like I'm trying to grab what exactly I should jump in for the next question. So I would like to start with a short reflection. So it feels like community building is almost like a product building. So basically you need to really put yourself in your customer shoes or experience by yourself something, then you can really relate to your audience, or you can also potentially learn your audience so well that then you can build a community for them. And you are absolutely right. Some people struggle with managers because usually community is not transactional, and in big companies, metrics driven companies especially, they consider community as like, okay, what will be what you will achieve in 3 months time. And also it's a very long term kind of perspective to achieve something in communities, like relationship building, like you said. You cannot marry overnight. Yeah, it will not come in 3 months, so it's a long process. And for me the big question is, and this is also, I think we coming from same company with Helena, where the growth was the most important. And for me, the question I'd like you to ask is regarding the community growth and engagement. And how do you see community growth? Can it be, I don't know, a hyper growth in community? Can it be that term in community, or it's impossible? And what is in the heart of community? Yeah, what are the most important aspects of the community?
I'm trying to find my, go to depths of my experience. And what I really understand that you can have audience really quick, but you won't have community, because community is all about people relationships and you can't build them quickly. So you can really drive a lot of people to your community space, but just in case you are sure that you have great moderators, great community builders, or a lot of like the super users or ambassadors who are supporting you. So when newcomers are joining, so for most people who are not from the community world, they like, oh, maybe it's a job board or maybe it's an ad board, so I can just share an ad right away, or I can advertise myself or advertise my company, whatever. But you have to make sure that you have clear rules and people who guide newcomers through those rules, because otherwise it will be a mess. So recently I had a conversation with a person who wants to start a community, and they showed me examples of what they want to create their community like. And those examples were not communities. There were just Facebook groups with some questions and sometimes answers. So I would say that was like, I don't know, support group or something like that. And it wasn't even official. So it was like an unofficial support group, which was weird because there were like more than 100,000 people, but questions were like not like normal. And most of the answers were like, oh, I sent you a DM. So it was a product community and somebody were selling, their uh, services to people who had answers, who had questions. So yeah, but yes, coming back to your question, I believe that you can grow an audience, but I'm the big believer of quality over quantity. and of organical growth. So when you are not inviting thousands of people into your community right away, but when you are inviting them step by step, and not like you as a community builder or as a company, as a marketing team or whatever, but mostly people love experience they have there, and they are inviting their friends. For me, it's the best case of the growth.
Totally. And may I follow up on that? You were saying that community, it's not a support forum. What does it mean to you?
I feel it deeply inside, and for me, it's definitely, as I told, human connections. And I approach every person I know from the communities I'm a member of or I'm working with as potential friends, or at least people we can, exchange some knowledge together. So for me, I would say it's more like a collaborative space where you can definitely, when you are joining a community, especially if it's a product community, you are searching for answers to your questions. But when you receive those answers, you kind of fulfill what you needed. And the next, like, what can I get more? So am I learning something? Or can I share my experience so to be highlighted and people get to know me better? So can I maybe build my own brand as an expert in this sphere? Maybe I can meet a friend. Maybe I, having like running every morning, maybe somebody like from the community live near me and we can run together. So it's going down. Like for me, community is something like when you are working with somebody in the company, it's like your colleague. So you are still talking about work most of the time, but then you have this water cooler topics, you have this coffee machine topics. You always go and talk about other colleagues. You talk about movies you watched. You talk about sports you've done. You talk about books you've read. So you have this more human relationships in addition to professional relationships. So for me, community is a relation of professional and human relationships, and in a good proportion. I don't know what exactly proportion, but in a good. So for every community, this proportion would be different. So you have to test it yourself.
Cool. And on that, I think, was it David Spiggs who posted that recently as well, that your community is working where when your community members talk about something that is not the community, like their life, their kids, whatever, then it's going well. And it's really resonates with what you just said.
But you have to make sure that they are talking about it not in the main channel. So otherwise it would be a little strange if you are building community of the product and they are talking about their children, in the main channel. So yeah. And let me add a little, because I really, as a moderator of community, I'm not a big fan of having this, let's say, human conversations in the main channels. For example, if I'm posting jobs in some channels, it's a channel for jobs, and you can talk about everything around jobs. It just don't look nice. So you have to always know where to have those conversations. And as a community builder, as a moderator, you have to guide people to spaces allocated for exact conversations.
Yeah. So adding more structure and basically leading people to like a proper place, removing noise, I would say, from the channels, like structuring.
Yeah, can you imagine if you were at the airport and people were just randomly going to different planes and just flying wherever, so you don't know where's your race and you have no idea. So it's something like that. You have to always guide people.
But for 5 minutes, it would be fun. And the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, it would be crazy. But yeah, fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay, speaking about fun, as Helena mentioned, we'd like to build really a podcast which will have a lot of tips and tricks and advice from professionals. And my question, like, if you can tell about your top 5 favorite engagement initiatives, which people can embrace and just immediately apply once they listen to you.
Are you counting onboarding as an engagement? Because I bet it can be that type.
It can
Because
be, yeah.
But I have very mixed feelings because people told me different feedback. Most of people like, seeing welcoming messages, like they are seen, that they are joining community and somebody messaging them. But some of people told me like, I don't really like these messages. Why do you send them? I just want to look around and take my time. So you have to always, find the best frequency of sending them and make sure that you are sending good messages, not like this huge amount of text that everyone has to read, but some valuable tips of how to benefit out of this community. I would say that it would be first. The second is definitely what I'm doing in the CMX community, and I'm trying to move this event, let's say, to other communities, so between two water coolers. So it's a quick, easy event where you can meet people. It's kind of like speed networking. So mainly you are joining the main room. Then we have 3 rounds of 7 minutes of communication one-on-one. And it's always like switching rooms. So you can meet 3 new people in 30 minutes, which is also fun, like if you like networking or getting to know each other. But in the CMX community, it went more like a family gatherings, because people are always coming back and we are catching up at the end of the week on each other's lives and talk about stuff. 5, god damn it. Okay, so third one, the easiest way to engage people, it's having conversations or asking what they are thinking about something, asking about their opinions. So as a community builder, you can definitely ask opinions and then tag people right in the conversation or send them DMs to motivate them to answer if you are sure that they might know answers. It works good, I guess, if you are doing it properly. And yeah, it's also a lot of fun because at least you are connecting with those people one-on-one. I don't know if it's like exactly the way you have to do it, but here first I would say is facilitating people meeting each other, because as a community builder you're kind of a connector, so you know your community members, and if somebody struggles with something, most likely you are the first person to know who to reach out to. And that's exactly what Mili Tamati doing in her generalist world community. When somebody is joining, she's always tagging like 5-6 people who you might have good conversations with. And it's also nice because in this asynchronous world and where there is a lot of different noises around, it's easy to lose those conversations. But if somebody's tagging you, and for example, if you trust those people, if you understand that if they are tagging you, most likely they're doing it for a reason. It means that you can trust them, as I told once again, and you have to connect with those people because it may benefit you in the future. And the fifth, I don't know, it's the hardest part, but I'm a strong believer that online community have to have in-person meetings, because the best connection you might ever have is when you are meeting people in real life. Because I don't remember who told it, but I listened to some podcast and somebody told, like, in the conference you can meet people, you can see them, you can handshake them, you can smell them, and it was so fun. But that's exactly how I'm thinking about. So usually we are like, if we are online, we are seeing our heads and just part of the body, and then like, oh my god, those people are real, they have legs.
I'm going to move on to something that you kind of mentioned, you actually mentioned about community managers having arguments with their managers. Also, you mentioned the importance of investing into community and what kind of conversations you need to have with, your manager, leader of a company, whoever it may be. What's your experience been like, and maybe what tips could you give to fellow community builders, or again those who want to build community, whose buy-in is important?
It depends on under what team you are working, because I've heard that sometimes communities under marketing team, sometimes communities under customer support team, and etc. So you definitely have to understand who is your like closest manager. And it's not always that community folks talking to CEOs, unfortunately, because I bet that community has to have also their place at the table. But from my experience, I'm very lucky to work at Code Control and 9am with a CEO who told me, like, you are an expert, do whatever you want. And we just having this weekly conversation when I'm telling what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. And I'm not asking of how to do or what to try next. I'm just asking for a feedback, like, okay, so how does it look from your perspective? What do you think about that? And it's great because CEO does not tell me what to do, but I love some insights that we can have from those conversations. And sometimes I'm starting implementing those insights because it's good to see somebody else's perspective. And also, what I really want to do and what I'm trying to do is to work with every team, because I'm sure that community is like on the front line of communication with your clients or with people, with your customers. And it can help all the departments. It can help marketing, it can help sales, it can help customer support, it can even help HR, to hire people to your team. Because if it's amazing community, if there are great people, and it's a good, you have good emotions and good environment, and you like, oh my god, this amazing company, I want to work there. And that's how people hire their next hires. So what I'm really doing, I'm just going one by one to every team member and ask them, what do you think I can do from my side personally? And how do you think community can support? First of all, what goals do you have? And how do you think we can support you in achieving those goals? Because definitely I won't do the work for other people, but I need to understand how we can make this work easier. And for me personally, community is a glue, not only for clients or customers, but also for internal teams. Because what's happening in product, what's happening in marketing, what's happening in sales, and you hear what real people telling you, and having all this information, you can work with it, and you can understand, you can have good ideas on how to improve the somebody the teams are doing, or communication you have with your clients or customers. So I would say that community builder has to be a really proactive person, trying to I never thought about that, but I think it would be the first time I'm saying that, kind of like the second CEO. So you can't just build a community, you need to understand what's going on in general in the company, because otherwise, I love to be paid for talking to people and having fun, like it's amazing. But if you are not making any impact on the company itself, like what is the sense of having you as a community builder for the company? Like I don't know. So yeah, I'm trying to be helpful.
Can I elaborate a little bit on one interesting topic that you just touched regarding hiring? So basically, you started describing the ideal community builder profile, and my question would be if company like to hire a community builder, maybe if the first hire or maybe the second, probably the first is the most relevant. Like, what would be your advice? What kind of qualities the company should be looking at? Is it experience important? What kind of experience? Like, what would be your approach for hiring this, like the best community builder for the company?
Fine. I had this conversation recently with a person who wants to start their first community, and I told that even though I'm a consultant, I can't do it for you. I just literally have no time, but I can help you. I can guide somebody, a person you will hire. And the thing I told them was that, first of all, this person has to be human-centered. They have to be like really wanting to solve people challenges, solve people problems, and they have to never take everything personally. Because as a community builder, you are in the front line, you have a lot of conversations. Sometimes you can have conversation with people who don't like your product, or who don't like that you are reaching out to them, like, and inviting them to events, and they might say you bad things. But you have to understand that it's not about you, it's about themselves, and you really want to genuinely help them. And also, as I told, this person has to be really, first of all, this person has to love what the company is doing, and this person has to be motivated to bring growth not only to the community but the company in general. Because if you are working for a company that doing bad things and you don't like it, but you are a community builder, you will share your inner intentions with people. You might not use exact words, but if you don't like what you are doing, people will feel it. So first of all, people have this person has to be human centered, trying to solve and genuinely wanting to help others. And second, like what they are doing.
Yeah, I totally agree. It reminds me, one framework from Adam Grant, which is about givers, takers, and matchers. And basically, in the work environment, you do have different people. Some people are true givers, some people are just matchers, like you give something to me, I'll give something to you. And then takers is like the worst people to work with. But in community, what you said is basically you need to hire a giver.
Agree.
Yeah. And what are the don'ts in community building?
I would say you have to avoid lying to people. So if you know that things are not going good, and if you know that if you promised, or if marketing team or product team promised that some feature is coming next week and it's not coming next week, you can't just shut up about it and lie to people and like, hey, wait for a few more days, it's coming. So you have to be super honest. And I feel like community builder is a person who has to have this opportunity to be honest. Definitely not to say bad things about the company, but to be to say that, hey, we promised that it will be shipped a week ago, but here is why it's not shipped. Here is what we are doing to make it super quickly. And do you have any questions, or do you have any ideas on how can we make it better? So you can always, you have to always include community members in the product stuff or in the company side. So I'm always saying to the teams I'm working with that, hey folks, I love you, you are the best, but if you have any issues with community members, I'll be on their side. So just for you to make sure. And it's fun because if people can feel that. People can feel that you are honest, people can feel that you are their advocate, and they can trust you and they can be vulnerable with you. And then that's exactly how you receive the best feedback ever. And that's exactly what helps you to build the best company or the best product ever.
It's fun because you basically read our minds and you answered a question we really wanted to ask you, and answered in a way that that I could so much relate with, and it also connected to kind of building with and for the community, and that includes including them and being on their side, and really you being kind of part of the community. You are not only a manager, you are there with them and you are there to advocate for them.
I really hate the word community manager. So I'm trying to avoid it as much as possible, like community builder, community ambassador, or whatever. I don't know why, but like I don't feel that I'm managing people. I feel like I'm more helping people. I'm guiding people.
I'm sure a lot of people will want to connect with you and learn more about you. What's the best way to get in touch?
The best way is LinkedIn for sure. So, but make sure that you are including some kind of message that, hey, Yurii, I saw your conversation there, because otherwise, most likely we won't connect.
Okay. So everyone, please add a little message always. Good tip for building relationships as well. Thanks so much, Yurii. This was amazing, and we'll see you very soon.
See you in the community world.
Thank you so much for listening. If our conversation resonated with you, please consider subscribing to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Your ratings and reviews are invaluable in helping us reach more like-minded people. You can find all our episodes and learn more about the show at communityunlocked.substack.com. See you in the next episode.